Alors, bonjour tout le monde, bienvenue sur cet appel. J'espère que vous allez bien. Aujourd'hui, on a un invité très spécial. Puis, en fait, c'est une de mes initiatives de lui demander de venir sur notre appel ce midi parce que je ne sais pas si vous la connaissez, je ne sais pas si vous avez vu un certain vidéo qu'elle a fait il y a de ça environ un an et demi, en fait, c'était en septembre 2016. Et ce vidéo-là m'a tellement marqué. C'est un vidéo que je partagerai, peut-être que vous puissiez le voir, mais Sommer, c'est une femme inspirante par tout ce qu'elle a accompli, en fait, dans son entreprise de coaching, évidemment, par tous les records qu'elle a battus, les rangs qu'elle a atteints. Elle est membre du Millionaires Club, elle est 15 Star Diamond, elle a atteint plusieurs choses. Elle est vraiment une super bonne speaker aussi. Je ne sais pas si vous avez eu la chance de l'entendre parler au Summit ou à des endroits comme ça, mais son énergie vient me toucher, vient me mettre le feu au cul. J'ai dit cul en appel, mais c'est pas grave. Puis, ça vient vraiment me donner une drive incroyable pour aller de l'avant dans ma business. Je pense que c'est cette énergie-là qui fait amener dans nos entreprises, les filles. Alors, je vous encourage vraiment à porter attention à ce qu'elle va nous partager. Puis, pourquoi qu'elle est comme ça et pourquoi qu'elle a réussi à se rendre où est-ce qu'elle est, c'est vraiment parce qu'elle a réussi à connecter avec un why puissant qui lui a permis, en fait, de découvrir cette passion-là, ce feu-là et de l'exploiter à son maximum. Voilà. I think I've said it all. So, Summer, I'll let you the floor.
I don't even know what you said.
I said really, you're super great, extra great speaker, great motivational speaker.
Well, for all I know, she was like, listen, you guys, just give this girl some grace. Let's just try to make her feel good today. Just smile at her as she fumbles through this and just act like you understand what she's saying.
I'm saying great things.
What's that?
I'm saying great things about you.
Thank you. I remember when I came and spoke in Canada, and you guys have to understand, like, I didn't realize y'all spoke French. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, how naive is that, right? And I was just like, I walked in and everything was in French. I was like, I have no idea what any, like, I sat down at the dinner, you know, with market council, and I was like, I don't know what to say. Like, yes. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, like, you know, like those times where you so bad wish you could speak the other language. You don't realize how much a language barrier there can be until you're in that situation where legit you don't know what they're saying to you. Do you ever feel that way with your challengers and your coaches? Like you're speaking a different language?
Yes, a lot of us speak English, so we will pretty understand what you say, so that's great. But I think it's worse when you're English and you're trying to understand French.
Yeah, so you guys do understand English really well, or do you just catch some really well?
Most of us that are here know that you gotta speak in English.
Okay. I was like, because if you think I'm gonna throw out some French words, I got nothing. You know what I mean? I took 4 years of Spanish and can't speak any of it. So even if we were in Mexico, it'd be no good to us. But like sometimes I think, and I didn't expect it to go this way with some things, but like I think sometimes we're speaking a different language, even like when you can't get, any of you guys ever had a spouse that's really not that like supportive of what you're doing, or is that more of us Americans that struggle with that? Like that is like a huge team problem for us.
Yes, we struggle with that too.
Phone all the time. Like, do you know what I mean? Does your spouse start to think like you just got your face buried in a phone, you're playing on Facebook all the time? Like that's what, you know, I hear a lot from my coaches, and I think it just comes down to a communication barrier. You know what I mean? Where if we don't open up and talk our spouse's language, like, and you got to figure out your spouse's language, right? You got to learn how to communicate with them, because by the end of my time in Canada, like I could communicate with people. Like I was picking up on some things. I was only there for a couple days, but I had to be open to that and being willing to lean in when it's really, really uncomfortable. And so just pay attention to those things with your spouse, and to your coaches and your challengers. Generally, if they're not ordering from you, or you're not speaking their language yet. Have you ever realized that? Have you guys ever struggled in your fitness? Raise your hand. Like, this is totally interactive and you have to smile at me, otherwise I get really uncomfortable. You know, and then I start doing, have you ever seen someone do nervous smiles before? It's not good. It's not good. So, okay, so you know, you get into that situation where you feel like people, like they're not understanding, and I think we have to always remember where we came from, because there was a time. Anybody deal with yo-yo dieting, cycling, like just like I used 9 years ago. Like I luckily Like I learned some things before To Be Mindset. When To Be Mindset came out, I was like, oh, praise the Lord. Good Lord. Like this is what we've been waiting for. Like, cause everything rises and falls on your belief. Whatever you believe, you will act out. Like, and they have done scientific studies on your brain. You know what I mean? Like, and so like, and I was just having a conversation with my daughter, like, you guys all have kids? Anybody have kids? Like I have an 8-year-old girl, but then I have an 11-year-old boy. Not only are they obviously a different gender, different age, but totally different personalities. Do you guys have kids like that? Like my son is goofy, right? Totally always, like literally you can be having the most serious conversation. He's like, okay, mommy. Like, you know what I mean? And then you're like, did you hear like anything I just said? Whereas Riley, the 8-year-old, is super intense, right? And so when she's trying to have a conversation with you, she wants to have a conversation with you. And Griffin is not having a conversation. Really, he's thinking like, how can I make this into a joke? Like, how can I make everybody laugh? That's like his God-given talent is to make people laugh, okay? And so just earlier, I was having to explain to Riley, you know, how she has got to understand where Griffin's at. And we're going to talk about this today. And I promise I'm going to get to a place where you can apply this to your business. But when you start to communicate through someone else's language, right? That's when a connection starts to be made. Not like from up here. Like parenting from up here generally doesn't work. Okay. There's a great book called Lead for God's Sake. Like leading with the hammer is like a parent that leads from up here, or a coach that leads, a basketball coach leads from up here. Leading with the carrot is like saying like, hey, if you do this, I'll let you play a video game. You know what I mean? That's like dangling a carrot. It's like sometimes like for rank, it's like, yay! Like, do you know what I mean? Like, yes, that carrot is gonna, woo! It's gonna taste so good. I've chased the carrot before and I get it, and the carrot tastes good. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's more than a carrot. You know, I think they should call it something like a chocolate bunny, perhaps, or like, what's your favorite? Like a Butterfinger bar? Like I used to, I don't know, Taco Bell, taco. Like I know that all of that's gross. That's what I grew up on. But like there's these two ways, and they both can work for a short amount of time, and that's what we're going to get to, right? And both, like you can lead both ways, but if we don't at some point get to the heart of it, you can't lead. Those are short-lived, right? As soon as the hammer's taken away, you know, then people stop. And as soon as the carrot is taken away, have any of you guys ever like sprinted? Well, I have. I've had people on my team sprint for a rank, and as soon as like the deadline is up, maybe it was for Summit, maybe it was for a bonus or something, as soon you're like, yes, you know what I mean? And then you're like, I'm gonna go chill. Like, you know what I mean? And then what happens to us? We lose rank. Does that ever happen to you, Genevieve? Yes. I mean, we've all gone, it's like we think the journey should look like this, but it really looks like, and then back down. And that's literally what the journey looks like, right? You're learning along the way. But if we don't get to the heart of things, and that's what I was telling you, Riley, if you don't get to understand the heart of your brother, you'll never connect. You know, and so it's less about Riley and more about Griffin. And this is what applies that I learned from like John Maxwell and working with Brendan Bouchard and working with and listening to Simon Sinek and Chalene Johnson, that I started to learn. And I want to share that with you guys, but you have to be interactive. Do you guys promise that? Those of you that can type, will you kind of talk to me a little bit? What kind of goal, like, let's talk about this. It's hot. Got to take off my coat. I live in Ohio. What's the temperature like there? Is it nice there?
It's like, I think it's like 10 degrees, but I think you work in Fahrenheit, so I don't even know what it is in Fahrenheit, but it's cold.
It's cold there?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Ohio's like bipolar. Like, so it's like hot, and then you're like, you should in your car, you should keep rain boots, a jacket, a tank top, shorts, and snow pants at all times. So I get hot, or I'm hormonal and I'm just having a hot flash. But either one, I need to take my jacket off. But what excites you? Well, you guys, like, you got to play along with, like, this is like, let me just set you up a little bit. So I had planned out what I was going to talk about, and then my husband took us a totally different direction. I know that sounds weird, but Chad sat down. My husband, we've been together since we were 15, and He sat down, and you would think like he's just now sitting down. He's been a coach for almost a decade. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm an old coach, like a dinosaur coach. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, legit, I've seen it all. Nothing surprises me at this point. You know what I mean? And so, you know, most people think, oh, like, oh, your husband probably listens to everything. No. Like, sometimes it's easier for other people to hear me than my own spouse, right? And so he walks in here 9 years later and sits down and says, so I need help. And I was like, with what? Like, right? And he was like, I couldn't get out of bed this morning. And like, you know, like the alarm, and he's notorious for this. Any of you guys, how many of you guys hit the alarm like over, and like, are you guys alarm hitters? Like, you know what I mean? Like, no, okay. Like, and Chad's in a, like, for as long as I've known him, like, I've thought about, have you guys seen those alarms that it takes off and it starts flying around the room? Like, you have to catch the alarm to turn it off. Like, I considered getting that for him, but I'm pretty sure he would get his gun and shoot it or something. Like, seriously, like, he like notorious, like just won't get out of bed for as long as I've known him. Right. And that was always like a source of our frustration, because like I felt like I had to be the disciplined one. Like, he could eat a whole pizza. If I looked at pizza, I gained weight, he would still have a 6-pack tomorrow. If he ate a whole cake, a whole pizza, he can eat whatever he wants, right? Like, he'll be like, you know, I kind of like feel like I'm missing my 6-pack. He like removes one beer and he's like, it's back. You know what I mean? I'm like, ugh. So we have that kind of dynamic going on. And so he's just never really like, I mean, he had to get up. He was in the military, so he had to get up and stuff like that. And, you know, when they're putting bullhorns in, maybe I should put a bullhorn in his ear. Maybe that's what got him out of bed. Anyway, he couldn't get out of bed, even though he told our 11-year-old son that he was going to get out of bed to work out with him, right? And so you would think that'd be enough to get you out of, like I told you I would get out of bed, you know, having a relationship with the words that come out of your mouth. Well, the alarm went off. This was yesterday. And I don't have to get up early anymore. This is my life by design. Do you know what I mean? Like, I get my stuff done. My kids are homeschooled right now. Like, I am chill. Like, do you know what I mean? I hustled. I was in a season of hustle, and I still hustle. I just hustle at different times. Like, you know what I mean? And so I'm not making any promises that I'll get up at 6, you know? And so Chad made that promise. The alarm goes off, and he goes out and he pushes the alarm. He gets back into bed. I was like, hey, I thought you, babe, we're going to go work out with Griffin. He was like, oh my gosh, I got up 7 times last night with the kids. And I was like, really? Like, where was I? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, well, I can't hear out of this ear. So if I lay on this ear, I hear nothing. Like, the tornado sirens could be going off and all kinds of stuff. I've completely lost hearing in this ear. So I was like, oh, crap, that is real bad. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, 7 times? What happened? He was like, well, Ollie was having growing pains. And then I was like, and then he was like, I was like, that's one time. I was like, where were the other 6? Like, you know, he was like, yeah, you're right. It was just one time. Like, we start to justify ourselves, right? We'll look for anything for his wife to have complete compassion and empathy. Like, oh my gosh, you got up with him 7 times. I'm so sorry. And instead I was like, really, what happened? That's a real bad night. Our kids don't generally get up. And so 7 times, like, and I was like, I pushed the BS button. You have one of those? I was like, ah! Like, you know what I mean? And so he was like, you're right. He got up and he went. And we were laughing. We don't really yell at each other or anything. And like, so I leave him alone. And I'm like, yeah, I could nag him. I could lecture him. I could do all of that. Like, that's, you know, discipline, perseverance. I could give him the whole motivational talk that I give people or whatever, but it doesn't really work on your husband. And so I'm just understanding. And so I just going about my day, and he sits down in my chair while I'm up here designing something. He goes, I need help. And I was like, why? He's like, why couldn't I get out of bed? And I was like, do you really want to know why? You know, like, do you really want to know? He's like, yeah, I do want to know, because I have goals. And it's true. Like, he's got goals. But let me tell you what he does not have. And this is what I wanted to talk to you about. What excites you? We have to go there first, okay? But there's no wrong. You get to define winning today. And this is something that when I have one-on-one calls with people. I sat down with Chad and did this, with my personally sponsored coaches, with my Star Diamond coaches. This is what excites you. And, you know, I've had people that, like, this isn't really going to sound weird, I know, and hopefully it doesn't change your opinion about Americans, but I was laying in bed one day. I just had surgery, and in walks one of my challengers. We were friends, you know. She walks in, she's having a nervous breakdown. I'm all hyped up on pain meds, you know what I mean? Like, had a major surgery, and like, you feel groggy, but you also have a little more courage to say things, like, you know what I mean? And so she's crying and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, I sat up and I was like, what do you want? Like literally, like, just manifested, like, up, you know what I mean? I got all these draining tubes from me. It's a long story, but I think I've told it before. I had my implants taken out, and it's a whole different story. That's a whole another therapy session. So I sat up and I was like, what do you want? Like, you know, and she was like just froze. No one had ever asked her, what do you want? You know, what do you want? You know, not what is, and I you know, like, I later, like, with one of my coaches that's lost 300 pounds, like, you know, she was struggling, and I said, Erin, if you don't know who Erin Booker is, amazing, and one day she'll get the courage to go for the big dog at Beachbody, but belief stops her. So anyway, what do you want, Erin? Like, what do you want? Like, stop telling me what you think your parents want. Stop trying to figure out what I want. What do you want? Pick back up your pen and start writing your story. You think you have multiple lives? Listen, you're not a cat, Erin. You get one. Like, one. There's no redos. There's no redos, okay? Like, you pretend you're a cat, but you're not, you know? So one. Like, so we go into, like, I just start having these conversations at different times with people, like, your casket moment. Have you guys ever considered your casket moment? Have you ever even heard that talked about? Have you guys heard me talk about it before? So about 2 years ago, year and a half ago, Chad's grandmother died. And she was older, you know, like at 90, which is, that's pretty good long life, right? And we had visited her right before she left, and then, or, you know, went to heaven, and then she passed away, and Chad went home, and I stayed back with the kids. We lived in Texas, and they lived in Ohio. That's a whole other therapy session too, about why I've moved so many times. But when you're trying to figure yourself out, that's what you do. So hopefully you're thinking right now, like, wow, that girl is messed up. If she can do it, I can do it. I hope that's what you're hearing right now, that you don't have to be perfect and have it all figured out, but you just have to be present. So he sent me a picture of his grandfather holding his grandmother's hand in the casket. And I was thinking, like, in that moment, like, there's no redo. Like, you can wish it, like, you know what I mean? But you don't get to redo anything at that point, right? And I was hoping that he was holding her hand, yes, sad, but thinking, like, man, we did it. We left our tracks. We loved people hard. We concentrated on the people we cared about, and we were a light. You know what I mean? I hope that's what he was thinking, because they used to go square dancing, and they traveled. They went to Amish country, and they saw the world and the country, and you know what I mean? Together, they loved each other. Did they have their differences? But absolutely, right? They were a great example of marriage for Chad and I at such a young age, right? And so I was hoping in his casket moment, he was like, yes, I miss her, but man, we did it right. And I thought to myself at 36 years old, I get a chance to know what the casket moment feels like now, and to make sure the tracks that I'm leaving along the way lead up to a positive casket moment. So I know that sounds morbid, but that's what I told Erin Booker. I was like, you're going to have your casket moment. You know what I mean? You're going to have, what tracks do you want to leave, right? One of my mentors, Scott Mann, asked me one time, 15 years after you're gone, okay, 15 years after you're gone, you have someone that was close to you. So for me, it was Riley, that sits down with someone that has never met you before. Never met you. What would you want that person to say about you? If they're sitting down there like, man, my mom, what? Like, my mom loved hard. Man, when you were in my mom's presence, you knew that you mattered. You were fearfully and wonderfully made, and there was just like love enveloping you, and you felt hope, and you wanted to take action. So when I started journaling that's the tracks I wanted to leave. So then you start thinking, well, what, if those are the tracks you want to leave, what actions do I have now that aren't lining up with it? Have you ever been at lunch with someone or your kid comes in from school and they're trying to tell you something and you're like, hold on, I'm finishing this post. You know what I mean? And you're like, hold on a second, I gotta check this leadership group. And they're trying to tell you about their day. Go, 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 go. Who's at a soccer game? Someone's at a soccer game right now. That's awesome. They are their kid's biggest cheerleader. I love it. So maybe their child will sit down and be like, man, my mom was the loudest on the sideline. She was always there, front and center, cheering me on, believing in me. But do your actions line up? Like, are we going to be perfect? No. But the people that have that positive casket moment are the ones that realized when their actions weren't lining up where they wanted to go and were able to correct it, right? But how do you know where you want to go if you haven't identified what excites you yet? How do you know where you want to go? Like in life, you know what I mean? Like, this is your vehicle, right? This business is such a flipping blessing. Have y'all ever studied the comp plan? Like, I feel like I should go like this with my nerd glasses. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, the comp plan is amazing. And I don't know if you've ever studied other comp plans. I didn't when I got into the business, but then you start to after you're around it, and you're like, thank God for Carl Deichler. It's not a front-end loaded comp plan. It is a lifelong, there's different comp plans that they pick along the way. I didn't know these things. Like, we're in a good comp plan. Some are front-loaded and aren't expected to last very long. This one was built for longevity. I'm like, yes, thanks for protecting me on that decision. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and so this can be your vessel to pick up your pencil and start writing it, right? Like, your social media is who you've been entrusted with, right? So how you post, so if you decide what excites you and what your tracks are, then that guides how you post. That guides how you respond to your coaches. If you want people to always, like John Maxwell taught me to put a 10 on everybody's head all the time. Everybody's head has a 10 on it, right? Now, only they can take the 10 off. You don't get to take it off, right? They take it off. How do people take off the 10? They don't show up for webinars. You know what I mean? They don't have a relationship with the words that come out of their mouth, right? So they're taking it off. Now, if they come back to you and they say, like, I want to, okay, I'm ready. You have to put the 10 back on. What do most of us do? Go, like kind of a 5. Like, they're like, I know your past history. I'm keeping records of wrongs. You're a 5. You're going to get 5 from me because I can tell you're a 5. Right? So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? When we keep records of wrongs, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because we treat people differently if we go off of their past, right? But if we go off of their present and you put the 10 back up, you treat them differently, right? They don't show up for a webinar, take the 10 back down. Like, you don't show up for a call, like, you don't get mad, you just take the 10 back down. They want you to put the 10 back. Okay, 10's back up. You know what I mean? And this has, like, I wouldn't be married if I didn't put the 10 back up on my husband's head. I would not be married. I am glad he puts the 10 back. I've had some really, have you ever done something like sent a really mean text to your husband? Like, that's not very, like a 10 wife. Would you call yourself a 10 wife with some of those texts? Like, thank God my husband kept putting the 10 back up, because there were some texts when he was deployed. I wouldn't put the 10 back up on my head, but he did. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and he went through failure to adjust when he came back from his second deployment. But if John Maxwell hadn't taught me to put the 10 back up on his head, because you treat a person differently that has a 10 on their head than someone that has a 5 on their head, right? Someone comes to you and they're like, I want to blow this business up. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I am sprinting straight to the top. You're like, you text me anytime you want to. I'll get on the phone with you, blah, blah. Someone's blowing up their Success Club points. You're like, hey, you want to bother me at 2 a.m.? You bother me. I'm all yours. Go 10. Like, do you know what I mean? Someone else is like working on their goal. It's a little bit smaller. Their goal is $250 a month. And you're like, that's like a 2. Like, do you know what I mean? And you're like, do you see, like, do you see how that works? Does anybody know who Rebecca Bain is? Probably not. She's a 7-figure earner on my team. Started out, if we really wanted to put numbers on our heads, like big, like 0. Like, do you know what I mean? She was like, I'm only gonna buy this because I'm military and I don't have to pay for it. And I was like, ugh. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, 10. John Maxwell said 10. Like, do you know what I mean? And so, like, I would check on her. You know, I gave her Nordstrom 10-style service, you know? And then every action has an equal reaction. So what she do? She started treating the business with a 10 over time, right? So we put a 2 on people's head, and then we're like, Like, you know what I mean? And then we start being less available, and then they ask us a question, and we roll our eyes, or we're like, I'll get to that message later. Like, you know what I mean? And you're treating them like a 2, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because they're like, oh, she never responds to me, or he never responds to me, or I feel like I'm annoying her all the time with these questions, right? I don't even know how I got off on a tangent there. But, I put the 10 back on Chad's head when he came and asked me for help. Instead of being like, are you serious? Do you know how many webinars you've listened to me? Like, you can't figure this out yourself? Like, do we do this to some of our coaches? Like, are you serious? How many more times do I have to explain to you how volume works and how cycling works? Gosh, but you get to Emerald already, right? And here, a decade later, sits my husband saying, hey, will you teach me how to get out of bed? Like, okay, like, you know what I mean? And so it comes down to this. What excites you? What tracks do you want to leave? So when it comes to the business, talk to me. This is your safe place to say what excites you. Does anybody, do you know? Like, can I start with myself? What excited me 9 years ago? Because it can transform, right? So let me tell you, 9 years ago, what excited me was the fact that I was teaching group fitness and to make ends meet, because we lived in the red every single month, you know, and you know, the military, like, don't make hardly any. I mean, we were on, like, what's it called, food stamps. Like, we didn't make a lot of money, right? And so, but we knew how to spend it. Does anybody know how to spend money? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you go to Target and you just that. Do you guys have Target? Oh, okay.
Like winners. Do you know Winners?
No, but it's like
it's
Target
like
is genius. Like, so if Withers is like this, you get what I'm saying? You walk into Target or Withers, and they have, like, the sale section, like the $1 little, like motivational saying cups, and you're like, yes, I need those for my coaches. Like, do you know what I mean? And you're walking through, and you're like, if they're on sale, it's okay. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's the cutest little summer towel, and it says something about wine. I have to have that towel, you know, and you're just like, you're in that section. And what Target knows is once you open your wallet, you're more likely to open your wallet to other things. It's marketing. That's why in marketing, like, even for us, expose, involve, and upgrade works. If you can get someone to open their wallet for $7, the chances of getting them to open it for Beachbody On Demand is higher from a free group. Does that make sense? Like, it's expose, involve, and it's a marketing strategy. It's not new to us. You know what I mean? It's Target uses it. You know, those ads that come on Facebook, they're like, do you want to know how to have a gazillion followers? Click on this free webinar. And then it's like, wait, but if you want this for $7, and you're like, yes, I want that for $7, click. And then it takes you to another page. It's like, but for only $29 more, you can have these for webinars. And you're like, that's it, $24. I'll take it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, once your wallet's out, they know that if they can get you to click on it, right? And they can get you to bring it out for $7, you're more likely to bring it out for anywhere from, like, about $20. The limit is about $97. Once that, then people are like, I should talk to my husband about that one. But up to about $97, people be like, that's why most people walk out of Target or Withers. Have you ever walked, like, why can't I walk out of there without spending $100? Right? That's like, might be just an American problem. I don't know. But we know how to spend some money, right? And so Chad and I knew how to do that. Okay? And so we were at this place where, like, our credit cards and our car, we had cars we shouldn't have. It's a whole thing. And we were living, like, right in the red. And so my heart rate would go up every time I went to the grocery store because I really wasn't sure there was enough money in there. Anybody ever feel that way? Like, you're like, like, I don't really know if there's money in there. We're going to give it a try. But don't worry, I have my backup credit cards. Yeah? Please, you guys are looking at me like I'm some insane American that doesn't know how to manage her credit cards. This is just an American problem? Okay, so I was working every night as a head group fitness instructor in the state of Washington. And I worked at night because Chad was home generally at night. And so I would go teach, and I missed all the fun time. Like, you know, like, you guys that have kids, like Griffin was 3, and I love to read a book to him. This is before life got crazy. Like, with the first child, you're like, I love reading a book. By the third child, you're like, no more books. Just me? Man, I'm starting to feel like Americans need to get their crap together. Anyway, so like, you know, I wanted to be there to brush his teeth and to sit at the dinner table and hear all his funny jokes and all that kind of stuff. And I was missing all of that. I taught 6 to 7 nights a week, okay? And so I saw this business as an opera. What excited me was getting back to that table. I wanted back at that dinner table. That was what excited me, right? So do you know what excites you? It doesn't have to be crazy big, but it has to excite you. What is it? Okay, good, Melissa. Y'all love to spend money too. That's good. Okay, that's good that we have made it across the border and having that impact on you all too.
For me, it's like the liberty of doing whatever I want, whenever I want, and going out with my boyfriend like in the middle of the week, and this kind of free spirit thing. So that's what's fired me up. Okay,
that excites you. Okay, so the next thing, so I asked Chad the same thing. What excites you, right? What, you know, and then what, so if that's what excites you, what should that initial goal is? And this is really Chalene Johnson. I'm really not that smart. So this is like Chalene mixed with John Maxwell mixed with Simon Sinek. So, you know, what do you need to make that happen? So for me, it was, it just sounds so small. It's crazy that I've created such a huge income, but it was $250. That's all I needed. And I could consistently making $250 a month. That would bring me back to the dining room table. But let me share with you, you might be like, gosh, someone $250. Let me tell you what happened. When I hit that goal, I was pumped. Right? What happens when you're pumped about a business that's changed your life and it's brought you back to the dining room table? What do you start doing?
What more?
You tell everybody about it, right? You start to think like, man, if I was able to do that, but you start like you're an advocate. So I was just training my team on this the other night. Like we're trying to build advocates for what we do, or ambassadors, whichever way you want to. Some people that are so naturally excited because of what it's done for them, right? That you don't have to like beg them to show up for a webinar. You don't have to beg them to tell people. They're excited to tell people, right? And so what I started to do is when I'd have challengers, right? So let me get my pen. So understanding the comp plan, you know, there's many ways you can earn money, but usually the first way that you make money is commission. I don't know if you guys can even see my board, but the first way is commission. So I hit Emerald because that's the second way to hit. I hit it really quickly because that's understanding the comp plan and all that kind of stuff. But still, the majority of my income, the 250, came from here, right? So I was sewing into people in a challenge group atmosphere, right? I was encouraging them. I was getting them connected to the right product that would fit them, that would excite them. So this process, you guys, with this right here, I do with every challenger. This is the foundation. You know how they have units in Facebook groups now? This is our every challenge. This is the unit. What excites you in your fitness journey, right? So I'll go over that in a second. But that 250, like those were new challengers that were becoming advocates because they were figuring out what excited them about their fitness journey, not a scale. Let me ask this a different way. What would you run into a burning building for? Have you ever thought about that? Y'all ever heard me talk about that before? I don't want to just keep repeating myself. You're like, Summer, I already heard you talk about this at Summit. Like if you're driving and you went to the grocery store and you got to go grocery shopping by yourself, who loves to grocery shop by themselves? Like you stick in your earphones and you like, you know, as long as your kids, I love my kids, don't get me wrong, we go grocery shopping, but when I get to be just Summer and I can just enjoy and look at the labels and, you know, pick out different kombuchas and I'm like, you know, I'm looking at almond flour, like I'm just dorking out. And then, you know, you don't do that with 3 kids, like being like, oh, Mom, are we almost done? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, so like when I get to do that by myself, it's awesome, right? So imagine you got to go do that and you come home, you're driving home and you look down your street and it's just lined with fire trucks and ambulances and you're like, what? And you get closer and you realize your house is up in flames, right? And you get out of the car and you run up and they go, stop. Everybody's safe, your family's right over there. What would you do? Would you run into the burning? You're like, no, you don't understand. I just bought a new Louis Vuitton. Well, it looks like Louis Vuitton. I got it at Target, but it's in there. I need to run in. Like, do you know what I mean? Would you be like, I just got a new flat screen TV? Would you even even say like, oh my gosh, I didn't wear my wedding ring today. You might think you're going to run in there, right? But as soon as that building gets hot, as soon as you go in there, you're like, yes, okay, I'll buy a new Louis Vuitton. And you walk back out. I promise you. Because it's always going to get hot. On your fitness journey, your challengers need to know it's going to get hot, right? Like, what do I mean by that? They're going to make a goal, right? And they're going to go out with their friends, and their friends are all going to be drinking margaritas and stuffing their face with Mexican chips and dip and eating all kinds of things. They're going to have to pick a different drink, right? And they're going to have to pick maybe not the chili cheese burrito. Do you know what I mean? Like, while everybody's eating it. Like, do you know what I mean? They're going to go to crock pots. They're going to go to different holidays. They're going to go on vacation. And all that food is going to be there. There's got to be that's when it gets hot. You're like, oh, like I love the pie. I love the pizza. Oh my gosh, they have my mom's meatballs. Like, do you know what I mean? And like, they get their big plate and they're like, screw it. I don't care that much. They really didn't know what they were willing to run into a burning building for yet. How do I know this? I lived it. That's why I lived in yo-yo hell for so long, right? Until I figured out what I was willing to run into a burning building for, right? So picture this. Same scenario, you just jammed it out at the grocery store, you're coming home, right? And you come home and it's lined with firefighters and you run out of the car and they're like, stop. You can't go in there. We got everybody looking. Everybody's over there except for one little girl. Well, but we're in there. We got the firefighters in there. There will be nothing. Get the hell out of my way. Boom. I will die finding that little girl. Is there someone like that? Can you picture someone that's in the house and the fire is up in flames that you're like, I don't care. I'm going to die looking for that girl. There is no way I'm not going to fight trying to find that girl. Riley, I'm coming. Like, do you know what I mean? And I'd be low crawling. I don't care if I'm burning my arm. I don't care if I can't breathe. I'm going to find that little girl. Do you have anybody like that? You guys are looking at me like this girl is straight lost her mind today on this Wednesday.
No. Not at all.
I found you have to find that in your life. You have to find your challengers, and you have to find, if you struggled with I was the big boned girl, like, do you know what I mean? My sister was super tiny, and I would just I would try to eat super perfect, and then I get around all the fun. I like fun. Military is like, do you guys have fraternities up there? Like at colleges? Do you know what a fraternity is? It's like a big party in college. That's all they do is party. No. Okay. Oh, man, America. Anyway, so fraternities, right? And all they do is party, right? And the military is just an extension. It's just a bunch of 20 to 50-year-olds. Do you guys know what flip cup is? Have you heard of flip cup? Oh my gosh, something's wrong with us in here in the States. You guys are making me sweat that I know all this stuff. It's like beer pong, like where you have all the beer set up and you have to chug it. It doesn't sound so good now that I'm saying it out loud. And I love that y'all don't know what it is. So when as soon as all the flip cup tables came out and the bonfire and the alcohol and the pizza, you know what I mean? I was like, I'll start over tomorrow. It's not a big deal. I deserve this. I worked all of that. I worked out hard. I was a marathon runner. This is cool, right? Because I was fighting I thought I was the scale. I wanted to see a certain number on the scale. Right? And so every time it got hot, it's like going like, oh, my Louis. Right? Until I figured out why, like that deep why. Why are you doing this? Did anything change on either side? Right? And so I remember when this was first planted in my heart, and I was probably looking at the person much like you're looking at me, like, this is crazy. She thinks way too deep, way too often. Let's just have fun. And I promise I was looking at this person like that too. And then one night, Chad was deployed, and I was rocking Riley in my arms. She was 10 months old. And I looked down, and I saw my why staring right back at me. I realized if I didn't break this generational curse, I was going to pass all this on to her. All this self-hate, all the yo-yo dieting, all the dodging the picture, I did chubby checks. I would get on the scale. I'd be like, I hate myself. Like, do you know what I mean? It was like that kind of like internal struggle constantly. I was the girl that cried before date night because, 10 outfits and nothing looked right. Do you know what I mean? And I would go shopping for jeans or something. And it was like, Chad hated shopping for bathing suits and jeans with me because it was not going to be pretty. It was going to be like, like the lighting in here. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I can see like, you see what I'm saying? Like, and until I looked down, I realized something's got to change because my mom did this and it was passed on to me. You are acting out. Studies show that we are acting out information that we absorbed as a child, right? And so Riley was going to act out information she absorbed from me. Body image, relationship with food, how I reacted to stress, all of that stuff, right? She was going to absorb it and then act it out. And it had to stop now is what I decided. And it was in that moment that I found my why, right? And that's what gave me the strength when people be like, you're so boring. You don't even drink anymore very much. You're not very much fun. Like, just eat it. Like I had family members and be like, oh, just eat it for heaven's sake. Like, they wanted me to eat it because it made them feel better. Like, but it gave me the strength. I reminded myself what my why was. And no, thank you. I didn't need to fire back. Like, no, thank you. It just doesn't sound good to me tonight. Or I just don't feel like it tonight. Like, you know what I mean? That it all came from my why. And the same with the business. I was willing to run into a burning building. And what does that look like in business? I was willing to run into people making fun of me. Anybody ever made fun of for this business? Okay, so some of you Americans are just more mean, maybe. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I was made fun of. I got hate mail from my husband's squadron, that I was unpatriotic. I mean, really? Because I was making extra money? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't a I wasn't a good supportive military spouse. Like, I had good friends, like, rolling their eyes, talking about me behind my back. But I wanted to get back to that table. I don't care what they're saying. I'm going to love them right where they're at. But my focus, the direction I'm going, is back to that table with that little boy, right? Because I don't want to miss I don't want to miss all the giggles. They grow up too damn fast, right? And so that was enough to make me withstand some of the heat, right? And so I was telling Chad that if we don't get real clear on why you're doing something, when the alarm clock goes off and you're tired, you hit the button, right? So I always come back to this. If my challengers are struggling, then let's go back to here. Why is this important to you? If you don't do something different, where will you be in 5 years? Where will you be in 10 years, right? Because I ask myself the same thing. If I keep doing this yo-yo cycling, if I keep self-hating, in 10 years, Riley will be 11 and she will repeat me. And that's where we will be. That's a reality, right? And so that was why, I wasn't perfect. We're not asked to be perfect. We're just asked to be present, right? And so I always bring people back to here. And the same is for the business, right? So that first goal was met. But then I had this other goal. Like Genevieve was talking about, she's like, you want more? I'm like, yes. Because I was like, if that's possible, right? And then people were like, does this thing really work? And I was like, yeah, I made $250 last month. And they're like, really? Doing what? You know what I mean? Because you have to understand, I'm a little different than a lot of people. I worked about 7 to 10 hours a week when I first started coaching. I was super present. I was taking my kids to the park. You know what I mean? Chad was deployed. I didn't have, you'll hear, one of my coaches, Courtney Bell, she had 18 months to replace her income. That's a totally different story. Same daily activities, but a little bit on steroids. I did in 18 months. Do you know what I mean? And so you have to manage that, but you have to be okay with what excites you, right? And so I started telling people, they're like, for what? I see you, I see you all around town, you're always getting, going to the park with us. When do you do this? I was like, oh, I do a half hour in the morning and a half hour lunch and I study at night and then I go to bed. They're like, and you made $250 extra? Can I have that? Sure. And I was like, yeah. They're like, can you show me how? I'm like, yes, I can totally show you how. So my challengers started to become coaches that then I showed how to make $250. Do you know what happens when your coaches are making $250? Your income goes up. Why? Because now we're cycling. You know what I'm saying? And so then they started making $250 and their challengers were like, you're making $250, kid. You teach me how to make $250? Like, sure, I can teach how to make $250. And then I started cycle some more. And then things got a little heavy and I had to work more because that's what leadership requires. But, you know, when you're making, you know, when you're making $4,000 a month, I don't think you really care at that point. But so my why changed because remember that debt that I had? Did I tell you guys about the $100,000 worth of debt I had? It's hot in here. Am I having a hot flash?
Just you.
It's just me. Okay. So the $100,000 worth of debt like that I had, like that I thought was normal, right? So why? Because we act out information we're absorbed as a child. What did my parents have? A whole lot of debt growing up. You know, they drove the nice car, they lived in a decent house, they made more money, they spent more money, they made more money, they spent more money. So what did Chad and I do? We duplicated it because that's what happens. Riley will duplicate me and what? Oh, my mom's here. Okay, so I'll be a little quieter. So Chad's like, so I just lost my train of thought, Chad.
You're welcome.
Now I'm sweating. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So it repeats itself, right? And that's what Chad and I were doing, right? And I believe your parents did the same thing. Like it's not like an odd thing in America for people to do that kind of stuff. And so so I was just doing the same thing. And then I realized that it didn't have to be that way. Why? Because we get around different people, right? So I started getting around Beachbody coaches and stuff that were like, no, we're financially free. And I was like, what financially what? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, they're like, oh, we paid off our debt. I'm like, you can do that? Like, what do you mean you paid off your debt? And so the seed was planted, and then I was like, well, maybe we can pay off $100,000 worth of our debt. And then Chad said, if you make 6 figures a year, I'll get out of the military. And I was like, boom, done. I had a why. My why ignited. Why? Because I lived through a deployment. They suck. Like I mean, I'm glad I lived through it, but it's a lonely, like, you know, my 4-year-old at the time really, really struggled. I delivered our 3rd child by herself, like all by myself, all those things. And like, that was enough to be like, my why was like, I want to have coffee with my husband in the morning. Is that too much to ask? Like, do you know what I mean? He would get up before we all got up and leave and get home after the kids were in bed. That was our life for the last 11 years, right? He was deployed. He was all over the country. He would all of a sudden come home on a Friday and be like, I have to go on a cross country. And I was like, but I planned date night. He was like, I'm sorry. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm like, ugh. And so, like, that was my why. For kind of what Genevieve said, like, she just wanted to be able to, like, control her calendar again. And I was willing to fight for that, right? And so I was willing to do things like get up even earlier, right? Because I wasn't about to take away time from my kids. I mean, when my kids were awake, I mean, I had a little 12-month-old by the time I decided to go for it. Like, do you know what I mean? And so I needed to be present. So I had to open up time in my schedule. So I was like, okay, I need someone to clean my house. Like, you know what I mean? And so Janelle Summers said, get someone to clean your house. She's not my upline. I heard it on a national wake-up call. And she said, get someone to clean your house, but then tell your time where to go. So I was like, all right. So it just became, here I'm making my way down, brainstorm what you have to do to achieve that. What did you guys, like, what excites you? Why does it excite you? What goal do you have to do, right? So first it was $250 for me. Then it was I had to get rid of the debt. And then I had to be making $100,000. So my push goals, as Shalene said, were very clear. Do you guys know what your push goals are? Like, for me, it wasn't a rank. Like, I think for me, rank came, you know, along the way. But, like, I couldn't focus necessarily on rank because I couldn't go to Chad and be like, I know I'm not making 6 figures, but did you see this shiny sign? I'm 15 stars, so can we just count it? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't have paid our bills, you know, but when you focus on creating advocates and doing these daily tasks, I'm sure Genevieve is teaching you, and doing the things you're supposed to do, the rank really does come. It really does. If you're creating advocates, if you're really being disciplined and you're running into the fire every single day and you're putting the opportunity in front of people and you're creating advocates and you're teaching them how to get excited and find their why, like your rank will come. Like legit, like 15-star was nothing that I pushed for. It was just like had 17 people that hit diamond at the same time. Like, do you know what I mean? And they were excited about it. Did I support them? Did I put the 10 on their head when they're like, hey, I think I want to reach diamond? I said, why do you want to reach diamond? Well, I want to do this, this, and this. Awesome, that's a good goal. You need advocates and all that kind of stuff. Let's work on it together. And they all did it at the same time. You know what I mean? And so it was this same thing. Like, what excites you about diamond? Well, I want this income. And I'm like, why? I can't promise you just because you hit diamond that you're going to have that income, but let's figure out how to get that income, and you're going to need a team to do that, by the way, which requires diamond and star diamond. Does that make sense? So those ranks, if they're not coming, we need to figure out why, reverse engineer it, brainstorm what you need to do differently, and then start whacking at the tree every day with those. You know, you're probably leaving something out. So what are your guys' goals? Are you like, and why? Like, and I have had people before, like, I want to be diamond. I say, why? They're like, because it feels good. I'm like, do you need an income attached to that? They're like, no, not really. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm glad we're both on the same page. I definitely know how to help you reach diamond. And maybe the income will probably come as long as it's not a skeleton diamond. Do you know what I mean? And so like, it's whatever, like Janelle Summers taught me that. What's your goal? Why, right? Like it can be rank. It can be income. It can be a combination of both. Like, do you know what I mean? And then now we just need to reverse engineer that. Yes, you have a question.
Yes. How do you figure your new why? Because as you spoke, you reached your first, your second, and then you retire your husband. And then what? How do you continue to push yourself through a why that's going to push you through the business? Because I think I've already done a lot of the things that I wanted to do, like I'm doing it full time, I have a great income, I have a great team, but what keeps pushing you, and how do you find a new why? I think that's my difficulty right now.
Well, I think like that's something that like we think that we like have to keep pushing. Like, do you know what I mean? And so if you're living your perfect day, like teach your team how to enjoy your perfect day. Otherwise, we start to think that there's always this like relentless push for everything. And I think that actually can wear our bodies out, you know? So, but I'm not saying that you stop doing anything, yeah. You know what I mean? But I just think it's this thing, like, I'd go back to like, what excites you?
Okay.
Do you know what, are you pretty excited every day?
Yes.
Like, are you still pretty good?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask everybody a question. Doesn't that sound pretty nice? Emily, Sarah, like, doesn't that, like, you know what I mean? Would you like, I think you just shared that. Like that's like, I think we're always looking for this new thing to say that, like, we have to chase or something like that. But you know what? I'm more likely to follow you than someone that's always striving. You know what I mean? Because I think in our hearts, we want happiness and peace. You know what I mean? And we want excitement, you know what I'm saying? And that kind of thing. And so, don't get me wrong, I think we have to have challenges, because without a challenge, there is no victory. I just don't think we have to strive. Like, there doesn't always have to be a burning building that we're running into. Okay. Like, that's going to get exhausting. Like, do you know what I mean? So
I understand what you're saying. I think it's great because I already love my life, and I think it's great that I do want to push more. But I think right now, this year, what's firing me up is when my coaches are achieving these things, and that drives me a lot in my business right now. So I'm going to work more with them and pushing them to have this.
Yeah, and I think you do, you guys, and hopefully, like, for the different, like, Anne and Steph and the people that are on here, that as you see that, you're like, this is cool that it starts, like, I'm not always going to be on running into the fire all the time. Like, I think you go through seasons. You know what I'm saying? And then something will, like, I think you should always ask yourself at night, what excites you? Like, what excites me? Like, do you know what I mean? And if you're like, I'm excited right now, but self-awareness is something that all successful people, and when I say successful, I'm not just talking financially, I'm talking like happiness, talking about peace, I'm talking about, you know, just, you know, a love for life. Like something that everybody, all of them have in common is self-awareness. And so like you'll hear Brendan Bouchard says, did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? Those are 3 questions he asks himself at night, every single night, just to self-evaluate. And so I would ask yourself, like, like what excites me? And if you're like, what I'm doing excites the heck, this is good. Like, okay, awesome. My coaches excite me. I'm going to focus on them tomorrow. It excites me to see people's light bulb go off and stuff like that. As long as you're willing to ask yourself that question, and then your next daily activities line up with that. Does that make sense? It's when we start to allow other people, like you'll always have people that are like, here, give me your pen. Let me tell you what's supposed to excite you. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and I'm just going to use an example, and they know I've used this example many times, and I joke with them every time I see them. But when I arrived for the 15-star celebration, the first question corporate asked me was like, so when are you going to get your second business center at 15-star? And I was like, can I just celebrate this one? And I don't have 15 people that, like, you know, I have like 5 in that one. Can we go for that one first? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, there's always going to be someone like taking your pen and trying to tell you what excites you. What excites you? Like, do you know what I mean? What will you get up every day at 5 a.m. for and work very, very focused and diligently for? 30 minutes, an hour, whatever, you know what I mean? Or what's going to make you, like those of you that work, like when everybody's going out to lunch, you know, my sister-in-law like gets in a little corner and does her power hour while everybody else is going to eat out at the food trucks, like because she has a why, do you know what I mean? Like what's going to make you do that? Right? And then that's all that matters, that excites, like you're working towards something that excites you. You know what I mean? And it's going to change along the way. You know what I mean? I used to think that a certain house was going to excite me, you know what I mean? And then you start thinking like, well, not necessarily. Like it's allowed to change as we grow and stuff. But if you're always asking yourself what excites me, then you'll always be headed in that direction. And then if you can communicate it to your coach and say like, hey, this is what excites me. Like every coach call I get on, I ask them that question. What excites you? What do you, I had, and they get to tell me what is it. Let me tell you what my last newest coach told me. I just want to buy a gift for my son. And I was like, tell me about that. You know, I've never struggled with that because I just put it on my credit card. So tell me about that. You know what I mean? And, she, like, it's a long story, but her husband ended up going to prison. Really super sad story. And she was left with she just gotten pregnant when he left, and they had a 6-month-old, so super close together, right? And she was left by herself. They had no money. He was the major income. So anytime her kids had a present, her mom would give her the money, and then she would go pick out the present. She said, I just want to buy it for him. I was like, do you know what you want that present to be? And she's like, yes, a bike. I was like, how much is that bike? She was like, I don't know. Like, I was like, well, do this. Go pick out the bike and send me a picture of this bike. And she sent me a picture, and it was $50. I was like, we can do this. Let me help you do this. So let me see your list. And do you know the needs of these people? Let's construct an invite to 10 people. Lo and behold, she made $50, went and bought the bike, and she shot a picture of her son, who was 4, was so excited that he was walking through the store going, my mom bought me a bike, my mommy bought me a bike, my mommy bought me a bike, right? And so that was her goal, right? And so we celebrated that in the team page. And then she was like, okay, so now I'm thinking what excites me next. You see what I'm saying? And so that was like a small victory. And then she started thinking like, well, maybe I could cover Christmas. Like, we're quite a bit a while from Christmas right now, but she's like thinking like, maybe I won't have to borrow money for Christmas. I'm like, well, how much do you think would be exciting to have set aside for Christmas? And she was like, I don't know, $300. And I was like, wow, teach me how to do a $300 Christmas. Okay, awesome. I like that, And so she has this account where every time she makes money, it goes and so she had that picture of that bike up on her computer, so when people are telling her no, that was her fire. Like, I'm going to get up every day when she woke up at 5 to work. Why did she wake up? For that bike. You know what I mean? And now she wakes up for Christmas, and we're talking about like, well, why is that important? She's like, I can't wait to see them run down the stairs, and I will have wrapped their presents, and there's going to be presents. I'm going to sit, I'm going to enjoy it, I'm going to watch them. I bought the we are emotionally involved here. Like, do you know what I mean? And that's what she's telling people. She's telling her mom, like, when people are like, why do you do this? She's like, because I'm going to buy my kids Christmas. Do you know what I mean? And she shows up. She's never missed a webinar. You know what I mean? And I could be like, you know what? I got coaches that are making 6 figures. Are you serious? We're only going for $300. And like, do you know how long until Christmas? She's going to hit $300 way before you guys. And then we're going to start saving for a vacation because their family's never gone on. Do you see how your belief like grows? Like, you know what I mean? And then it becomes part of your story. When people are like, does this business really work? She was like, well, I just bought Christmas for my kids and it's not even, you know, we got 4 months until Christmas. So yeah, it works. You know what I mean? Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like, if we allow people to tell us what excites them, that's all that matters, right? And so I'm going to end you guys with this. I have a call myself that yesterday when I asked Chad what excited him, or he's been telling me he wants to own an airplane. Like, I was like a big, like a jet, not like a putter. He was a pilot. So he wants to own a plane, right? And I'm like, I could be like, that is legit dumb. Like, do you know how much those things cost? Like, a lot. He can hear me. You know, I could have. That's what went through my mind. But I was like, why? Why, babe? And as he started telling me why and getting emotionally invested and looking at them and which kind that he would have and stuff, like he's going to start getting out of bed. He only has to be willing to fight for it. And it might change. You know what I'm saying? Like, he might get to that point and be like, I don't really need a jet. Like, I mean, but whatever motivates. It just has to be exciting to you, and then you legit have to be excited about it. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, when your husband's like, why are you getting out of bed? My coach Alyssa is like, because I have a bike to pay to get. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, why are you still doing this? Because Christmas is coming. And they're like, no, it's not. Yes, it is. I'm gonna pay for. Like, it has to be. You know what I mean? And then people start following you. You see what I'm saying? They're like, man, she did pay for her Christmas. Wow, she did buy that bike. Like, do you know what I mean? And so she has a story to share. So when people like are like, what is this whole coaching thing? She's like, I don't know. Watched it. I don't know. Our team did this video. Watch this video. All I know is it helped me. Like, look at this picture of my son with his bike. I got to buy him this bike, you know, and she'll tell that story and they're like, wow, and they're connected to it. They watch the video. Did you see what I'm saying? Like, it comes from this place, like she can't even contain herself. It's like when I got to sit back at the table with my son, I was telling everybody, like, why are you walking away from group fitness? I get to sit at the table with my son. Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, it just has to be important to you, right? It just has to be important to you. So I hope that helped you guys. And
yeah, thank you. I think I've learned, not that I've learned, but I think I will take the time just to slow down and write things that you said, just figure out a why that's more defined maybe, and maybe go after it every day, because I think that's what's missing for everybody. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if we could, can you just get excited again about life? Like, do you know what I mean? Just get excited. That's what you're doing, right? Yeah. I mean, a plane, I would never save up for a plane. I don't even like planes. My feet were supposed to be on the ground, but it just has to excite him. And, you know, I don't think you view the kitchen table until recently quite like I did, right? I mean, you're like, you love the kitchen table with the kids, but not like I did. Like, it probably wouldn't have motivated you to get up at 5 and work, right? No. So it just has to excite you. So anyway, thank you guys so much for your time. Sorry I went over a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Yeah.
Merci les filles. Bye.